As health and wellness providers, we know that better patient outcomes require a whole person, multidisciplinary approach that we just can't provide on our own. That's why I've started the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. I'll be bringing you interviews with experts, tips, tricks, secrets, resources, systems, and solutions so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And creating your wellness center won't feel like starting over. Jane is an all-in-one practice management software with helpful features like online booking, admin scheduling, integrated payment processing, and charting. But there's more to Jane than you might think. The team at Jane cares a lot about the problems you face as a practitioner. One of those problems is the prevalence of no-shows and late cancellations in practices. So they've made it easy for you with a few simple tools built right into Jane. That includes the ability to implement an online booking payment policy, send out unlimited text and email reminders, and enabling waitlist management features to fill those last-minute gaps that weren't preventable. Come see Jane in action at jane.app. If you know you're ready to sign up, you can mention the show for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. Today on the show, we have Tara Vossenkemper. Tara, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
If you could start by telling our audience just a bit about yourself and how you got to be doing the work you're doing.
Yeah. So my name is Tara Vossenkemper, like Kendall said, and I got to here a little bit accidentally, honestly. So I went through my master's level as master's level program. I finished up, I became an LPC. I shifted into a PhD program, and I went the academic route first. So I was in academia very, very briefly, and I had my first baby there, and I realized how much I did not value being there. I love academia. I like higher ed, but it's not a fit for me. That environment is not a fit. So I shifted full time into a private practice, and that grew. That's the accidental piece. Like, it's now a pretty, I don't know about pretty large, but for me, it's a decent sized group practice. I have over 20 employees. And so from that point, I also met a lot of other group practice owners, and I was given feedback about the things I was good at that also aligned with things that I loved. And so it was a little bit like, I'm realizing this is very important to me, and I'm receiving feedback from other group practice owners who are struggling in these regards about this thing that I'm also good at it. And so it's a little bit happenstance. I would say it's more intentional at this point, but kind of happenstance in the beginning. So yeah, I think that answers. I can get long-winded.
Absolutely.
So
I think, no, that's great. And for people that don't know the acronyms LPC and things like that,
sure.
Tara is a mental health provider.
Yes.
With a group mental health practice. And you said you have 20 therapists on your team?
Well, 20 employees. The goal, I think there's 16 therapists, 20 employees total. And the goal is to have, like, in 10 years, we want, 80 therapists or something. The vision is to have a large therapy practice with some like different services, but with the bulk of the employees being therapists, providers, clinicians. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Super
so
cool.
You don't get to 16 therapists or 80 therapists without really being intentional about team culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something you're very passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about team culture, business culture a bit, especially in the realm of group practices. Why is it important? Let's start there. Why is it important?
Well, I think that this isn't like my answer. This is, I think, an answer people like hearing, or that's sort of out there. The financial component to team culture is that it increases profitability. So healthier culture you have, the more your profits increase, which of course we know profit is all about stability and like long-term stability. I would say it's also important though, in that I don't know about you. I don't want to work at a place that I don't like. Like, I'm not interested in staying somewhere where I don't feel valued or supported or cared for as a human. Like, I don't want to be a cog in a wheel. I would like to be an active and integrated part of a larger system that has like forward momentum in the direction that I also want to go. And so for me, it's important because it sucks to be somewhere where you don't feel seen and you don't feel valued. And so that's my answer. And also the bonus is like, hey, and it's good for employee retention and it's good for increasing profits. So there's like some
Mhm.
additional bonuses that go along with it.
Absolutely. So you strike me as a group practice owner where employees will come to you and you're actually giving them a reparative experience in work.
Oh
And
yeah, that does
yep,
happen. That's funny.
yeah. So I'm curious what you see, like in those experiences or other practice owners you've talked to, what do you see other groups missing? And this is not to say they're bad and you're
Oh
good,
yeah. Hmm.
but to say, like, what are those common mistakes?
Hmm. Um, yeah, that's a good question. So it's funny because the reparative piece, that was never something I thought about. It just happened. It was almost like an inadvertent benefit, like this was never an intention, but it ended up being a really common theme for people who were coming to work with us. So, I think that the answer to your question depends on where people are coming from. So I would say we've had clinicians come from agency work, for example. And so the majority of what I've heard, and again, these are people leaving. So it could also be that my sample is skewed. I'm sure that that's a possibility. That's probable. But people who are leaving places like that, they basically just feel like a set of numbers. So your productivity has to be so much. You're not really valued. I don't mean to just keep harping on that, but it's like a clinician has a family emergency. If there's a death in the family at an agency, these are real examples. Someone has a death in the family, someone has a major illness that occurs, and the response from higher ups is, okay, when are you going to come back though? Like, when are you going to be back in the office? You're not hitting your numbers. It's cold, it's like a cold sort of callous
Right.
response. And I can understand a need to focus on numbers, of course, but also like you have a real person who's sitting in this chair that you are responsible for making sure has like a good experience. I would say good experience at the business that you are, either running or in leadership or management at. So
Absolutely.
that's like agency. I would say for other group practices, I honestly, well, I don't, that's a hard question. I don't exactly know if there's like common things that are missing from like the specific group practice experience, or if it's like people who are in charge don't realize what it takes to build a healthy culture. And I don't mean
Yes.
like these big sweeping movements. I just mean these like key pieces that we should have in place and that we should be tuned into, because they are the things that help keep a healthy culture, like cultivate it and also keep it thriving.
Exactly. I think that's the thing. I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of well-intentioned leaders and
Yeah.
practice owners and who are amazing providers, and they start out on this journey to own a business and then hire employees, and
Mhm.
like you said, not realizing the actually on a systemic level, foundationally, what it takes to maintain a healthy culture that's really different and that where people really want to stay for a long time and be part of that.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of energy. It's a
Yes.
different way of working, and it's in the small moments and details, and it's also in the larger systems and structured ways of doing that. So let's talk about some of the tangible and almost intangible ways that you do that in your group practice to really cultivate a healthy culture.
Yeah, so I can give I won't go meta. I'll like try to stick with like these are the specific things we do, but I will say that there are six almost like 6 filters, and 3 of them are focused on practice culture, and 3 of them are focused on employee satisfaction. So like practice culture wise, some very, I think, basic, but some very important and basic things that we do are from our this is like even in our hiring process, we have a really thorough hiring process. And so we have a phone screen with my clinical director who he screens all of the clinical candidates. And from there, he says yes to a second interview. And during that second interview, it's 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on the person. We do a meet and greet where leadership is gone and we just have our clinical team, some of our admin team, maybe they're just there hanging out with that candidate. And so it's really like, hey, ask us anything. And these people aren't reporting back to us about what they're asking or, they're this way. It's literally like get a feel for what it's like here. We do a case conceptualization, which is really like, here's a fake client. What are your thoughts? We give a list of questions. And then we do a mock counseling session to see how people show up. And then we provide feedback along the way. So I'm saying this because, as an example, one of the reasons I want to provide feedback in real time is because I want to know how people respond to it. Is someone going to double down and become defensive about what they said, or they're going to really become defensive and like, again, double down on what they're saying? Or are they going to be open and receptive and curious about the feedback that they're receiving? Not that our feedback is all knowing, of course, but it's the act of like providing feedback. How is it received? So that's one thing. And then there's also sort of like forced vulnerability, which maybe sounds gross, but the idea of somebody doing mock counseling, if anybody's ever gone through any sort of clinical program, you do a lot of role plays, you record yourself doing therapy, you play it with your supervisor, you play it with a group of other therapists to get feedback. It's very vulnerable. Vulnerability is a really good thing for culture. And so what we do is we're like, when we play mock clients, we're acting vulnerably as well by showing up. So like we're sort of forcing this concept of vulnerability, which is, I don't need someone to bear all, but you have to put yourself out there a little bit. That's a really healthy part of a culture. So another piece to this, just again in the hiring process, is it's a little bit exclusionary. And what I mean by that is you're going through one sort of gate at the beginning with a phone screen, and then you have the second gate, which is more of a formal interview. We have people that will withdraw when they see the formal interview piece. And it's not like, I don't mind. It's really like interviews are about bi-directional fit. It's not just us saying you're good enough. It's, do you want to be here? And also, okay, this is what we do. And so it's both of us, having a say in this. And the exclusionary piece, when you're in, then it's also the flip side of that. I would say once you're like through the process, and if you've been, given an offer, you belong here. Like you are now a part of us. And so it's, again, we've got this vulnerability component. We've got this belongingness component. These are really important pieces to healthy, thriving culture and people feeling good about being here. That is very important to me. So that's like one example. I have more, but I think that's like one sort of tangible way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the vulnerability piece is really, really important. And it can be taken too far and it can be taken out of context. And so it's important to really think about what that means for you and your business. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've learned over the years and seen over the years and that I coach people on is how to be vulnerable as a leader in a way that creates trust and relationship and helps grow the culture. And it's really, really important to be a human as a leader and to also show up in the ways that your team needs you to, in being clear and competent and all of those things. But like you said, if you're going to ask someone to come in for 2.5 hours and do a mock counseling session and do a case conceptualization, that you're also going to show up in that way and say, well, let me be the mock client. Let me show you a little bit of who I am, right?
Yeah.
And there's lots of different ways to do that. On our team, we have a 3 to 4 step interview process, and the practical interview part is really important. So when a lot of our listeners are multidisciplinary practices. So, for therapy, that might be a mock counseling session or
Mm-hmm.
case conceptualization. For acupuncture and massage, it's going to be a 60-minute treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, you're seeing in that moment, is this provider comfortable and confident in the room enough to give their future employer a treatment,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And you're being vulnerable and saying, well, I'm going to get on the table and I'm going to receive
Yeah.
this treatment.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
that involves taking my clothes off and all of those things.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
really important piece.
Mm-hmm.
Hey there, this is Katie from Jane. We're delighted to be a part of your listening experience today. Here at Jane, we're on a mission to help the helpers. In other words, we're doing everything we can to help you create a thriving business. We do that by offering features like online booking, scheduling, billing, and charting. We also make it easy for you to use Jane to reduce no-shows and late cancellations in your practice. You'll find that by requesting a credit card on file and enabling text and email reminders, no-shows will drop off significantly, saving you time and potential loss in revenue. Head on over to jane.app to learn more about us, or mention the show for a 1-month grace period if you know you're ready to get started. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, and I think this notion, I'll say also, my concept of culture is not my own. That I am, well, yes, no. So I would say that years ago, I read The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, one of my top 3 favorite books ever, ever, ever. And it mostly validated and gave a framework for stuff that we were already doing. And so I think that's why it just spoke to me so much. But vulnerability and belongingness, and then also this notion of purpose, like what direction are you going, how are we in this together, etc. So I have to like give credit where it's due, and I don't want it to be like these are my ideas, because they are not. Yeah, so that's all.
Well, at this point, are there any original
No,
ideas?
I don't think
Right?
there
I mean,
are. I really no, there really are none. Yeah.
we all borrow from each other, but it's in good
Mhm.
spirit and in creating workplaces that are places that people want to be, and it's
Yes.
the impact of that is bigger than we even realize. I
Mhm.
think. Sometimes I come to work and I have to remind myself, like, most people don't get to work in an environment like this every day. And, in a physical space that is serene and with a group of people that
Mhm.
want to be here and that respect each other.
Mhm.
And it's really, really important. This is people's lives.
Yes.
This is what they're choosing to do with their life. And so as practice owners and leaders, we have an opportunity to make a really positive impact in their life.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that we that's always hard for me to wrap my mind around, because it's been
Mhm.
such a I don't want to say easy, but it's been such a simple move. Like, why would you not want a place where people wanted to be? And it's been long
Agreed.
enough that I've been long enough removed from places where I don't necessarily feel that way, that it's weird to think that there are still places that aren't focusing on this. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like
Yeah.
that's still an experience a lot of folks have. And so that's just a bizarre sort of thing to try to wrap my mind around. It's just bizarre. I think that that's ultimately it.
Yeah. I think, like we were saying earlier, I don't think practice owners set out with ill
Yeah.
intention ever.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think, we always want to help people. That's why we went into helping professions. But I think what happens is sometimes group practice owners don't know how to do that,
Mhm.
right? They
Mhm.
want to create a place where people want to work, but they also want to create a place that stays open and the lights can stay on, right? Those
Yep.
two things are sometimes it's really difficult to figure out
Yes.
how can those two things coexist.
Yeah.
And
Very hard.
and the answer a lot of times is that yes, money is important, but money is not the only way to show that someone is valued and appreciated.
Mhm.
it's part of the way to show that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And fair compensation, competitive compensation, but it's not the only way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just had somebody who has been open about wanting to earn more money, very open.
Yeah.
It's been like an ongoing sort of discussion. And I think to the extent that I am like comfortable, there's always this like, I'm reaching the point of like, I think this is too much information for an employee to have. And also, this is fine. There's a little bit of a gray zone, but knows that we have limitations, based on what insurance is paying, based on our private pay rate. There are absolutely limitations to what compensation looks like in terms of a direct wage and not necessarily benefits or anything like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so, very recently in essence, like wanted to leave based on compensation elsewhere. And I'm supportive of that. It's sort of like, yeah, you've been talking about this. I understand. Almost immediately reached back out, rescinded their resignation, and sort of reiterated exactly what you said. Like, I have gotten so much out of here. It's not worth it for me. Like, that difference is not actually worth it based on all of this other value I receive.
Yeah.
And me, I understand that too. It's sort of like it feels like there's a cost every direction that you go, whether you decide to, from basic, like accept insurance or not, pay this wage and not offer benefits, or pay less and offer benefits, or do contractor work versus employee work, and who's eating some of the cost of the taxes. And I guess all of that to say, it is very hard. I think it's very hard to find a resting place for oneself, and then also like hold true to that when so much of what I want to do is give all of it to my employees. But I know, A, that's not sustainable. And B, if the business goes under, all of these people are screwed over.
Yep.
And so it's still, it's just,
And all the
it is
clients
hard.
and patients that we
Oh my
serve,
gosh.
right?
Yeah.
It's a ripple effect. So
It's a ripple effect. Yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like we could have a whole nother episode just on that piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I'll have to have you back, because this has been a really insightful conversation. I think it's been helpful to our listeners. So Tara, if I'm not mistaken, you do consultation with group practice owners.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us about that. Tell our listeners how they can find you.
Yeah. So I do consultation. I'll say that it's not something that I have given as much time and energy to as my group practice. The goal is to move more into consultation as the practice continues to mature, whatever, however you want to say that. It's hard to say it with braces too, mature, you know. So with consultation in particular, my love is culture. I love it's embedded in everything. It's embedded in the hiring process. It's embedded in our monthly meetings, our quarterly meetings, even our swag that we give people, all of it. It's like all of it is influenced by culture, period. Like that is a filtration system or filtration for decisions and movement in the practice. So culture is huge for me. And I always think of, what's a marker for maybe you don't have a good culture. Honestly, if people keep leaving, like if you continue to make bad hires, if people keep leaving, if you are getting a lot of like resistance from your employees, if you're sort of like, something's wrong, like what? People don't seem happy, or they're not satisfied, or they're not engaged. Those might be like, for me, those indicators point to culture as being a culprit, a possible, maybe probable culprit. So all things culture, I love the hiring process. I think people really devalue that process. They talk to somebody on the phone and they're like, yeah, you seem like a great fit. Let's do it. There's no practical component to it. There's no team component to it. There's no follow-up component. Like there's nothing that would actually help you make a really informed decision about if you want to make an offer to this person, which then for me bleeds over into culture, because now you're bringing somebody on. You don't even know if they're actually a good fit. They don't know if you're the right fit for them.
Every time you hire someone to your team, it impacts your group, it impacts your culture.
Yes.
It comes back to the psychological theory, Tuckman stages of group development. It's going to move your team into a different phase of that group development every time someone comes on or someone leaves. So, moral of the story today is take your time in the hiring process and be extremely intentional. And it sounds like Tara can help you with that. So if someone wants to book with you, how can they do that, Tara?
Yeah, so they can go to TaraVossenkemper.com or Dr. Tara Voss. I think it's drtaravossenkemper.com. Oh my gosh, Tara.
Let's see.
Tara Vossenkemper. DR.
Your
Tara
socials are Dr. Tara Vossenkemper.
Okay, I think it's Dr. Tara Vossenkemper. If that doesn't work, just try TaraVossenkemper.com.
We'll put it in the show notes and all the posts. So don't worry, we'll get you to the right place. We have it together today.
Yeah. So then from there, I will say I have an intro call set up. So I like to do intro calls. Again, for me, it's goodness of fit. They're very brief, but just to make sure what's your problem or problems and am I actually the right person to help? I'll say one other thing. So culture hiring, organizational structure is also something I love. Like, who are you moving into leadership roles? How do role alignment, role clarity, like the sort of hierarchy and structure of the system? Oh, I really, really love that. Yes. So fun.
Okay. Well, you're definitely coming back on the show because we have more to talk about.
Okay. There's probably more to talk about. Yes.
Yeah. It was so great to chat with you today, Tara. Yeah. Thanks so much for being on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Kendall. It's been fun.
Thanks so much for listening to the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please visit our website at wellnesscentercreators.com for more show notes and additional episodes. By the way, I love hearing from listeners. Please send me an email at Kendall, KENDALL, at wellnesscentercreators.com with your feedback. And if you send me a question, maybe I'll read it on the show, anonymously, of course. Thanks so much again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Wellness Center Creators Podcast.